There's a kind of a punk rock scene which is quite diverse. There's some traditional Mohawk style punk rock that's been hanging out in Wellington for years and years and years, which has little clusters around the country as well. There's working class New Plymouth punk rock, and there's other kind of more mutant stuff around the country as well. People have been influenced by bands like the Butthole Surfers as much as English hardcore, and that kind of stuff has never really fitted into any of the established release systems in the country, and it hasn't fitted into any of the touring circuits either. I mean, it's been there and it has little loyal followings where it comes from, but it doesn't get accepted by Rip It Up or television. It's not written about, and so what we ended up doing here was just doing our own thing constantly for quite a long time, and Lung was part of that. There were other bands in town here that were part of that as well. The Cacti album was quite, for us, it did a lot for us. We got distributed everywhere in Europe and in the States and everywhere we wanted to go, and that was a lot of Brent McLaughlin's work on that, especially the song Sleep. Sleep is the only song that I still listen to. It's got a sample on it, which was, we used to have a piano here which someone donated to us. Well, we thought they donated it to us, but it turned out they were lending it to us, and we took it apart one day and we're just hitting the strings with this hammer and sampled a couple of bits of it, and it made this quite sort of off-rhythm thing.
Step back, I'm really shitty at it.
Brent, our drummer, gets bored really easily. He always wants to play guitar and stuff, and we never let him. So I'd had a sampler for years. It's a little rolling thing with a 1 second, takes 1 second samples, and you can only load 4 in at once, so it's pretty primitive. And he figured out a way of wiring it up to a drum pad so he could trigger it off a snare drum, and so he started sampling guitar sounds and stuff and playing them off his drums. It was purely a reaction to boredom, and it kept him interested in the band really. He's a funny guy, Brent. He hates music basically. He's never bought a record in his life. He doesn't have a stereo, and there's very few bands that I've managed to convince him to listen to. Three Heads on a Plate was recorded in Germany. Well, most of it was at the end of that European tour, which for us was the experience of a lifetime. When we got to Europe, it was we were treated with ridiculous amounts of respect by people. We were on the same circuits as Sub Pop bands and playing to enthusiastic audiences who knew about our music, who owned our records, and we were getting good press and magazines and stuff, and put up in hotels and paid lots of money, and we had a ball. And at the end of the tour we were both ecstatic and exhausted because we had never played so many gigs in a row before, and we'd driven all over Europe, and we decided let's get the rest of the songs that weren't on Cacti but we've been playing on the tour recorded now in this state, the state we find ourselves in. And we did it really fast in a 24-track studio in the south of Germany. The tour itself was amazing. It was everything you dream of from all those road movies you've seen driving around America. It's an unbelievable place. It's so different to Europe. It's totally disorganised. Like, you'll turn up at a venue, there'll be 4 other bands playing. They will have all driven there from other parts of the States. Like, every night we'd be playing with a band from Seattle, a band from Texas, and a band from New York. No matter where you were, it was just bizarre. And it was great. All the bands were poor. They were all living out of shitty old vans, and everyone smoked the same kind of pot and had the same kind of lifestyle basically. It's something that you don't run into much in New Zealand because there's probably only 2 or 3 bands touring at any one time in this country, but over there's a whole touring culture. And we found out there was a few things we should have had we didn't have, like we should have had a manager with a gun basically. A lot of bands hadn't been paid for weeks just because they didn't have sufficient firearms.
He cuts through the edge of the steel sided slice. Slaughterhouse.
The gigs themselves were, fantastic. One night we played the Limelight in New York, which holds about 1,000 people. It's an old cathedral that's been converted into a club with these 2 hideous rock bands from Seattle. And the next night we played a tiny little historic hotel to about 20 college kids in Northampton, Massachusetts, and it just went like that every night. We played a place called Sudsy's in Cincinnati, which is a laundromat which has a bar in it. At the end of the tour, we recorded about an hour of material on an 8-track in a little club in Muncie, Indiana, and that's going to become an album called Feeding Vera, which will come out sometime in New Zealand. You can get it on a cassette through Yellow Bike at the moment, but we'll probably wait till we get this pressing plant going and put it on vinyl.